So really one of the things, some of the things that you came out with was actually giving her tasks, wasn't it? And exercise.
Exercise
was the two main things.
And tasks, and also trying to be more positive in terms of keeping the links with the family, because she'd got no interest in mixing with people. And again, I didn't know, well, was it the right thing to do to bring her friends in, because they didn't really know how to handle the illness. Was it the right thing to do to bring a family in? And a sister was really supportive at this time. She just kept coming every month or so. I said, well, I'm going to come. And Karen would say, oh, it's not long since we saw her. We don't need to see her. But I needed to have somebody else come in. It was almost like that was a break of a couple of hours or a couple of days for me. And encouraging a sister to come, and one or two friends to visit, in particular, one or two who really could handle it, were good in keeping things moving.
Yeah, so that sort of brings us to a time when we first met, about kind of November time last year. So I know when I first met Carolyn, it was quite surprising, wasn't it, her physical incapacity at that time, the shakes and the often losing balance, wasn't it? Didn't she? Sort of balance.
She was easily disoriented.
Yeah.
Her shakes were bad. She
and
was
the leg tremors, weren't
very
they?
aware of it, that she couldn't stand still, that if she tried to eat she had bad shakes, and that she couldn't really focus on anything. She couldn't get her mind around anything. Even just putting a story together, even just sitting down and telling you the story was really beyond her.
Yes, I think that first time I saw her, I think I was with her for about an hour and a half, something like that, and she was utterly exhausted, wasn't she, even just after sort of half an hour or so before we did the hypnosis, just telling her story. And I know one of the things that became really apparent very quickly was how much she'd severed all of her, what we regard within the Mindfields work and within the work that we do with Uncommon Knowledge, sort of severed what we call all the basic needs, hadn't she? So until you got her exercising again, she wasn't exercising, she'd really didn't want to see anybody, wasn't doing anything, wasn't being creative. She stopped singing, hadn't she? Because she was an alto soprano and used to love singing.
In fact, that's right. In fact, she said
withdrew, hasn't she? Withdrew from all her friends.
Yeah, I mean, she said yesterday when she went back how some people said, oh, we're really pleased to have you because she's got a lovely voice and can hit the high notes. So she is important to the choir, even though it's quite a big choir. And it was just going back to one of the things I hadn't really picked up on. She'd started going to singing lessons to broaden the range, and because she enjoyed it, as well as going to the choir. But she'd stopped the singing lessons, and she'd stopped going to one of the concerts she didn't go to. And she did a couple of times she didn't go to rehearsal because she couldn't get her mind around what music she needed. Just a simple thing, which pieces of music had to come out of the drawer to take with her. And at the time, looking back, it seems obvious that there was something wrong, but it just seemed like a bit of a worry, not mental breakdown, which is really what it was.
It was one of the things that precipitated it, wasn't it?
And she stopped doing her talking news for the blind. So some of these things, which were things she'd enjoyed doing, part of her life, she'd just cut off.
I know when she first spoke to me, one of the overriding things that came across was her total and utter exhaustion. I know she said it took sort of an hour and a half, 2 hours to even to just come to and have a shower, and how she found that, just getting up in the morning, highly, highly anxious. She got anxious over lots of different things, didn't she? And it was this overriding, I suppose, the overriding anxiety and exhaustion, which was, as a therapist, that I noticed most.
Yeah, and one of the other things from the Mindfield seminar was the understanding about that depression makes people tired, and therefore not to have too much sleep. So in fact, I used to have my shower, come down, do the crossword, do a few jobs, and I'd get her up for lunch. Well, I stopped that straight away, so I got her up for breakfast. So that was a change of about 2.5 hours.
She hated that.
Sleep. and it's difficult to see that there was some immediate benefit, but but it was part of the process. And then I gradually tried to take off a bit more time, but that was quite difficult to do, to actually getting back into a normal sleeping pattern.
So when we first started working together, we set a series of goals that we wanted to achieve, and some of those were long-term ones, and some of those were short-term ones. And they were very much based on the fact that a lot of depression rides on the back of high anxiety, doesn't it? So what we saw with Carolyn at the beginning was this lack of sleeping based on probably the worrying and the stress that was around at the time. And then the lack of sleep, really, this excessive dreaming periods which she used to talk about. And then coming into just this feeling of total exhaustion and this sort of really high anxiety during the day. So one of the short-term goals was to gradually bring down this level of anxiety. And she said that what she'd noticed most, the thing that she'd noticed most when that started to come down, was just getting up a little bit, when she got up, and not feeling as anxious as she normally would, not dreading doing things. She used everything that, the tasks that we were both setting her, she used to have a feeling of sort of dread and worry and anxiety about it. But when she was doing it, she was all right. So it was really to sort of curtail the anxiety in those areas through the work that we do, through the short-term solution-focused stuff and the knowledge that we have about hypnosis.
And we did use the aware tape as well that you lent us. So we started using that at home. So sometimes if her friends were coming, she'd start getting anxious, or if we were doing something a little bit different, she'd start getting anxious. So we'd go through this.
The aware technique,
be aware of that you are getting nervous, stay calm, and recognise that actually the last time you felt like that, nothing terrible happened.
Nothing terrible happened.
It went through okay, and that was good because while you're talking about it, you're not worrying about it, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. So the long-term goals was obviously that Caroline should get back to wellness. And wellness for her would be to regain an enjoyment of life. One of the things which came across very strongly, very quickly when I was working with Carolyn, was that she didn't exhibit to me, Malcolm, what I would understand through all my work with people who suffer from depression and anxiety, is what I would call normal depressive styles of thinking and ways of being. And it was quite apparent that because she really, really wanted to be well. And there were times, weren't there, of fleeting, what I would call a fleeting brightness in her, particularly during the hypnosis or just after, when her body would completely relax. And she'd really talk very, very strongly or imagine very strongly times when she was feeling really good again and able to sing again and able to enjoy her friends coming round. And the time that she really knew she'd be well would be when she could go on holiday again, which I know you're going to tomorrow.
That's right.
Yeah,
yep.
Brilliant.
Yes, that's true. She did get some benefits straight away. I think
from the hypnosis.
From the hypnosis, I think about the second time that I came to pick her up after she'd been with you, I noticed, you could see it in the eyes.
Yeah.
So I could see it in the eyes straight away. It didn't last, but I could see that the eyes were more normal. They weren't strained.
I know when she first did it, she said, I'd forgotten what it feels like to feel like that. And she said, and one of the things that, because she so enjoyed the singing, I just asked her to imagine being in the choir again, singing her favourite piece of music. And it was wonderful to watch, actually. It was really wonderful to watch that relief from all the anxiety. Because one of the other things that Carolyn did a lot as a side effect of the drugs was sort of this really breathing, wasn't it?
The heartbeat was fast and the breathing was fast.
And under hypnosis, that would almost go for the whole, whether it was 10 or 15 minutes into slipping into a little bit of a hypnosis, or whether it was a much longer session. That would almost go completely, and the leg tremors would calm right down as well.